Hello chess friends and welcome to Jozarov chess channel and welcome back to the TCEC season 27 Swiss event that you can follow now on the official and beautiful TCEC website. As I'm recording this video, things are really heated in this competition. Believe me or not, Stockfish 17, the latest version of Stockfish, is not in the lead. Stockfish is, I would say, only on the second place. Leela LCZero is actually on the first place after 10 rounds they played so far. Leela has gained 7 points and Stockfish has gained 6.5 points, which is of course not a huge difference. Nothing dramatic is going on, I would say, in this competition, but things are changing in the AI chess world. Also, what worth to mention, I would here say, is that we have now a third force in the AI chessboard. It's this beautiful Cirrus engine. Cirrus we have introduced also in the last couple of years. It was a strong engine, but then disappeared a little bit, and now it's actually also there, has also 6.5 points like Stockfish 17. So we'll have really incredible, spectacular TCEC season 27. And why is Leela LCZero in the lead? Why Stockfish 17 is not dominating? I would say because Stockfish lost simply many games. So you see, Leela LCZero out of this 10 games only lost one game. Played more draws than Stockfish, but Stockfish simply lost too many games in the previous TCEC competitions. Usually Stockfish could then somehow equalize this bad prearranged openings that of course the engines have to play in this competition, somehow with some tactics, with some, I don't know, crazy spectacular tactical shots. Stockfish managed somehow to get back into the game and made a draw, maybe in a seemingly worse position. But I think also what's a very important fact is that the other engines are also improving, so it's not so easy now for Stockfish and also for the other powerful engines to defend this dubious openings in the beginning. So I think we'll have a great time in this TCEC competitions, of course also in the future computer chess championships. But now, so far, as I said, Leela LCZero is in the lead, and as usual we're going to cover a beautiful spectacular game by the leader. We have here Leela against Halogen in an amazing Krause attack against the Czech variation of the Slav defense. And this game is really crazy. Put your seatbelts on. In my opinion, simply the best game from the TCEC season 27 so far. So let's dive now into the game with the white pieces. Leela open with the move d4, d5 by Halogen, c4 the queen's gambit, c6 queen's gambit decline, Slav defense, knight to f3, knight to f6, knight to c3, 3 knight variation, and now d takes c4. We have a4, and after bishop to f5 we have now the so-called Czech variation. Usually what black is trying to do is after something like e3 that of course white can play, then you're trying to play e6, and then after bishop to c4, bishop to b4 would happen. Black has a good setup, has now all of the pieces out, will simply castle, and white will have a tough time in order to make maybe here the strategic goal to push the pawn on e4. But here the prearranged opening by the organizer was the so-called Krause attack, here immediately going for the c4 pawn with the knight without playing the move e3. We have now knight from b to d7, knight takes c4, knight to d5, and now we have reached the position. That's now the position that was prearranged by the organizer. From this point on, the engines are calculating the position for themselves. And here Leela LCZero continued with the move f3, of course preparing the move e4 to trying to grab some spaces in the center of the board. We have now the move e5, a great counter attack here by Halogen, and now you could make, I think, a couple of more mistakes here from white's perspective. I think this is now already very important position that we have to solve here. For instance, if you try d takes e5, you run into a beautiful opening trap with queen to h4, and white will simply lose here. White is losing the piece on c4, and it's game over. Even if you try knight takes e5, then it's not working, because after knight takes c3, b takes c3, knight takes e5, and d takes e5, the position is not so dramatic for white. But then after queen to a5, you're getting destroyed. I think still here the pawn on e5 weak, pawn on c3 weak. I'm not seeing good ways here for white to proceed. So that's why white has to be careful. After move e5, that's why here e4 by Leela LCZero, knight takes, b takes c3, and now bishop to e6. And now in chess history, moves like rook to b1 have been played. This is, I think, also a very solid setup. But here Leela LCZero plays, I think, what's important for us, what's I think important for the chess community, plays now a beautiful theoretical novelty, a move that we haven't seen so far. But when we think about it harder, this move makes really sense. I'm not sure why no one in chess history played this move, but now LCZero played the aggressive d5. And in the beginning, I thought when I analyzed the game, this could be maybe a little bit inaccurate, because here after something like c takes d5, e takes d5, you have now an isolated pawn. Okay, it's maybe not isolated, it can of course be connected maybe with the c pawn, but still you have to move the knight. You're maybe, I don't know, exposing your king also a little bit here. I was really surprised by this move, but LCZero has here great chances to make progress, of course, in the center of the board. We have now bishop to f5. Now comes this idea, knight to e3, queen to f6. Halogen protects now the bishop, and now a beautiful follow-up here by Leela, d6, simply getting more spaces with this amazing pawn now. The issue is obviously here that you cannot take bishop takes d6, because after knight to f5, queen to f5, the queen gets deflected from the defense of the bishop, and black loses decisive material. It's of course game over. So after d6, we have bishop to e6 now again by Halogen, and now Leela proceeds with bishop to e2. Queenside castling, going simply for the d pawn. Very tense position, I would say. Look at this, the pawn is advanced, but it becomes also an object now of black's attack. We have now bishop to a3, Leela protects it, queen to g5, king to f2. Good calm move here by Leela. The king is perfectly fine, I would say here. It's not so endangered. If you castle, of course, here, then the knight is hanging on e3. So that's why for king to f2, we have now knight to f6, and now c4. And now, from this point on, the real fun starts. Obviously, the huge positional threat by white is if white continues here with the move c5. If black allows that, then I think white gets simply too many spaces here on the queen side, will eventually regroup, will eventually attack the king through the b file, will include all of the attackers into the game. So that's why c5 cannot be allowed here by black. But black cannot also play here the move b6. If you play b6, then you're exposing your own king a little bit too much here. So that's why it's not also working. So here what Halogen found after move c4 was now stunning bishop takes d6, but obviously you lose the piece. But Halogen is relying simply on the spin now that's going on the d file, and now Halogen plays queen to f4. And this move queen to f4 is also a huge threat, because if you try something like, I don't know, c5, if you try to cement your position finally here, if you try to fix your bishop on d6, then knight to e4 is simply winning the game actually here for black, because you have to step back, and now queen to e3, and I think after a couple more moves you can simply resign, which is really crazy. So that's why here after move queen to f4, we have now the move g3, preventing some dangerous ideas with knight to e4, but knight to e4 anyway. Now we have king to e1. Now there is at least not this dangerous check with the queen. We have now knight takes g3. The Halogen sacrifices further with pieces. We have now h takes g3, and now queen to g3 comes with the check. And look at this. Halogen sacrifices now two minor pieces against Leela, which is also very crazy. Look at this. This low-rated chess engine is trying to destroy here Leela, but Leela found, of course, the beautiful defensive approach, king to f1. Still nothing is solved. Still it's very unclear what's going on the board. Halogen continues now with bishop to h3. Leela gives up now the rook for the bishop. We have queen to h3, which comes with a check. Leela has now three minor pieces for the rook, but you see now, because of a beautiful tactical sequence, actually Halogen can get also the piece back, at least one piece back. So Halogen, after queen to h3 and king to g1, continued now with queen to h6, attacking now the knight on a3 and also the bishop on d6. Leela has to play now knight to f5 in order to get out of this attack and in order to protect the bishop on d6, and now queen to g5. Again, king to f2, and now Halogen took. Queen takes f5. And okay, let's stop now and evaluate the position. Black gained the rook for two minor pieces and has also, I think, here a powerful plan maybe to push the pawns on the king side, which is, I think, also huge endgame threat. But I think this bishop on d6 bothers now black really in the position. Of course, LCZero plays now the move c5. The bishop is fixed, and from this point on, Leela is of course coordinating the attack here against the lonely king on c8. Very unclear position. I think in human level, many of us would mess this up even from white's or maybe even from black's perspective. So the Stockfish engine at home, my Stockfish engine at home, evaluated this position as 1.3 in white favor, but I'm not sure how I would play, for instance, this position with the white pieces. Obviously this should be much better, but as I said, black is also here a great progressive plan, simply pushing the pawns. And there is also, I would say, another positional problem maybe here for white. In some lines, maybe, just maybe, if it's possible for black could maybe sacrifice the rook for the bishop and the pawn. If maybe black gets the bishop and the pawn for the rook and starts to push these pawns, these 4 pawns against this 1 pawn on this side of the board, and still I think it's a very messy position for white. So really beautiful position. Rarely we see such a amazing dynamic position all over the board. So here after c5, queen to f4 by Halogen, trying of course to deliver some checks. We have now queen to d5, queen to h2, and now king to a3, simply running towards the center. Look at this, the king cannot be further attacked. You can of course try a new check, but now Leela c0 gets simply out of this mess, and here the king is, believe me or not, perfectly fine here on d3. We have now here after king to d3, rook to e8. There are of course maybe some tactics to somehow here do some dangerous stuff on the d file. If the d file clears, then of course the king could be in danger. That's why rook to d1, first of all regrouping. Leela includes now the last piece into the game. We have now queen to e6, king to c4. Leela goes forward with the king, really wild stuff. We have now the move e4, f4, Leela passes through. Here we have now the move g6, and now a rook to b1. There is now a huge threat, of course, later maybe queen takes b7. If the queen moves somewhere, then you could get also checkmated. So we have now the move e3. Halogen is pushing now this very unpleasant pawn on the e file. Leela continues now with the move a5, and now queen to e4 here by Halogen. You could also maybe try here the move a6 to stop maybe white's progress here on the queen side, but then queen to e6 I think simplifies the game enough. Then bishop to g4 could be very dangerous. f5, then we retreat. You're trying maybe to take out this one. So as I said, this is also a position that I think is very unpleasant to handle. But again, my Stockfish engine at home says that you're perfectly fine here. You could maybe push the pawn, and now rook to e7 would then solve all of the tactical problems. You still can of course compete against this pawn on the e file, and black cannot promote it. So this is just one line. If for instance in this position black would have played the move a6, but here after move a5 by Leela c0, Halogen continued with queen to e4. Now we have queen takes e4, rook takes e4, and now king to d5. Look where this king is going. Really the bravest king that I've seen. Now it's perfectly fine. The king is well protected. You cannot really do so much. As we mentioned, you cannot even play the move b6, then you're running into some dangerous checks also with the move bishop to a6. So you would love to somehow disconnect this pawn from the defense of the bishop on d6. Now we have rook takes f4. So you see Halogen gained another pawn. As I said, very unpleasant also position for white. I'm not sure, as I said, how many of us would even win the game here with the white pieces. Leela continues now with the move a6. We have now rook to f5, first to check, king to c4, and now b5. Good move again here by Halogen, because if you try here b6, then you run again into this tactics with bishop to g4. Then the rook gets pinned and you lose decisive material, and I think then white could squeeze a win out of this position. So that's why after king to c4, we have now the move b5. The problem here for white is that you cannot play rook takes b5. If you play rook takes b5, then there is a tactic rook takes d6. Look at this crazy position. C takes d6. Now we trade off the rooks, and now suddenly look at this. The pawns are rolling here. White is close enough to the action, can stop this pawn, and now the pawns are marching. Still very unpleasant position. Actually, here my Stockfish engine at home says that this should be a thematic draw. We don't want to, of course, now move all of the possible moves that could happen now in this imaginary position, but as I said, very unpleasant this potential tactic here with the move rook takes d6. So that's why after move b5, Leela c0 had to escape, had to play king to d4. Crazy really position here. We have now the move b4 by Halogen, and now Stockfish continues with bishop to g4. Now we have e2 by Halogen, and now comes, I would say, another critical moment of this beautiful game. My question here for you is, would you pick up now the rook or would you pick up now the pawn? What would be now your continuation here? Take your time, think about this position a little bit more, maybe just for fun, really pause the video and try to think about this position as it would be your own position that you could play. What would be your progress here with the white pieces? Very, very cool position to study. Take your time. Very, very great position. Okay, here the huge problem is if you play bishop to f5. If you play bishop to f5, this is actually again not a winning position here for white. Crazy stuff. Then after g takes f5, you're trying to get the king here on d5, but now rook to e8, we of course are trying here to push the pawn further to e1, and now after rook to b5, the issue is if you push the pawn here from black's perspective, then actually you get checkmated. This is now a beautiful checkmate sequence. But after rook to b4, why is this position a draw? After potential rook to b4, this wasn't playing the game, but I analyzed this position at home. It was really crazy. Here after rook to b4, there is now a beautiful defensive idea, a beautiful drawish idea with rook to e5. This would be then the drawish idea here for black. For instance, if you try here, king takes e5, then of course e1 comes with the check, and suddenly it's not a good position here for white. After bishop to e5, now you don't have any more this checkmate pattern that we have seen previously with rook to b8 and c6. Now actually e1 would be the promotion here. You can deliver your check, but now look at this. After king to d7 and c6, the bishop is not on d6 anymore. In the previous line, it was amazing checkmate. So now you can get your check. We step back. You can of course also create a new check, but now you can just do perpetuals, and actually it would be a thematic draw, because if you don't deliver checks with the white pieces, then suddenly the queen is coming into the game, and I think black could be even in some lines winning the game. So really crazy position. Look, let's see again, bishop to f5, you play here king to d5, you go here, and now rook to e5 is then the drawish idea. Really wild stuff. So that's why for b2 we have to take here bishop takes e2. Still, you don't have time to pick up the rook on f5, and look at this, suddenly the position is also clearing for the passers for black, but it's a long run. Still white has some attacking opportunities, especially here against the lonely king. So we have now rook to d7, we have now bishop to f1, we have king to d8, and now finally bishop to h3, pinning now both of these rooks. Again, Halogen sacrificed now the rook for the exchange, and here of course Leela C0 took with c takes d6, rook to h5, or rook to b3, h6, starting to push this pawns. We have now king to e8, and now king to c4, f6, and now finally bishop to e6. That's the move I think that Leela has been waiting for, finally getting this bishop active and somehow getting this rook here, and maybe in some lines deliver checkmate. We have now rook to h4, Leela goes forward with the king, f5, and now suddenly the position is collapsing. After f4, king to c6, Leela is building now a beautiful mating net, although black has this 3 advanced pawns here on the king side. This is simply too slow. Meanwhile, of course, white is doing something. So here after rook to h5, we have rook to f4, rook to f5, and now Leela delivers a check, pushes the pawn further, now promotes simply a new queen, and after a couple more moves, here the game was simply over. Leela took here, and after rook to h4, it was a beautiful checkmate. So actually, it was after this move, after king to c6, it was already a forced checkmate sequence, so black couldn't do anything about it. So here, let's go to this last position, rook to h4, and it was game over. So a really great game, really dynamic game, this rook versus 2 bishops with his potential passers. But you see, Leela never allowed these pawns to roll. This was always a threat, maybe something could happen on the king side, but never really happened because Leela played actively. Also great play with the king. The king was all over the board, but managed actually to be included into the attack. Really great game here by Leela C0. So as I said, Leela is now in the lead. If you want to see some other beautiful games played by Leela, please check out our 2 games that we have covered now the last couple of days, in which Leela C0 played an immortal self-stalemate stalemate idea against Stockfish 17, where Leela sacrificed all the pieces just in order to get a beautiful stalemate position. And also check out a beautiful game here in which LCZero sacrificed the queen just in order to get a beautiful fortress. And again, Stockfish 17 didn't recognize this possibility that it could lead into a draw. So really great tactical ideas here by LCZero. Here are the links of the videos. Please check it out and have some fun. So if you like this content, then of course subscribe to my channel. What do we say in the end? Chess is the best, of course.